Hey guys, Matthew. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the step-by-step guide on how we made another mirror tier item. Now, in this case, I decided that I was going to look at my body armor. Now, this body armor was definitely a very lucky craft for us, and I think it's a very, very good craft as there's a lot of modifiers which are going to round out your characters extremely well on such a body armor, and it's relatively easy to craft if you compare it to other things. Not to mention, this is an item that could not have possibly existed prior to this league, which is why I think it's very worthwhile to talk about, because it uses the new recombinator system. Okay, so I'm going to basically tell you guys the reason why I chose the modifiers that I chose, and then after that, we're going to look into a step-by-step crafting guide on how to make it if you wanted to remake it yourself. So looking at the actual breakdown of the modifiers here, it is an Eldritch body armor because of course it's fractured, which means it can't have influence. But even if it could have influence, Eldritch would actually take the cake here because of the double effects of auras on the implicits, which is truly incredible for a hatred stacking build. Okay, next we're going to look at the prefixes. We have a Guatzalitzes, which is a temple chest. Or a temple hybrid life mod, which comes with life and hybrid or percent life. Now, the actual life roll is, I believe, 10 lower than a T1 life roll on a body armor, which goes up to 129. However, it's a hybrid of percent life, which is literally as good, or even I think this equivalent or so of unveiled percent life in a single modifier. So it's really, really strong. Of course, the global defense fracture from the Chayula chest is our go-to. It was the go-to last league. It's still the go-to now, as the modifier is extremely powerful as it increases all of your global defenses, such as armor, evasion, and energy shield by 100%. Next, our final prefix could have been percent life because the actual Guatzalitzes modifier does not block it, so we could have had another like 10% life on this chest. But I went with avoid ailments because by having it on my body armor, my boots, and my tray down here, I can basically get completely immune to ailments, which I think is a great quality of life on any build, especially on these a little bit more squishy builds, especially for things like farming simulacrums and whatnot. You know, being able to be immune to things like brittle is really, really good. Next, of course, the suffixes is going to be mana reservation efficiency of skills, which comes from the loathing essences, because mana reservation efficiency is always super strong. Suppress damage. Now, it's really hard to cap out your suppress if you're not using a shield on a build, unless you get it on your body armor, unless you want to actually path down to Mage Bane on your tree. You really kind of just need it. So I have it here, here, and here, as well as a good chunk on my tree, and that's how I cap my entire spell suppression. And then the final modifier, which was a bit of a flex modifier for me, was the physical damage reduction. Now, this modifier is only available in 3 places in the entire game: body armors, shields, and Watcher's Eyes. So by having it on the body armor, it's just a global 8% reduced physical damage, and it's really, really strong. Again, when we're, fairly squishy, not stacking a ton of life, those percent-based reductions are huge for survivability. Okay, now that we've done the breakdown, let's talk about how we actually go about crafting this. So the first thing that we need to look at is essentially how we go about getting the 2 fractured prefixes on an item like this. And what we're going to do is we're going to refer to the complete guide to recombinators made by my good friend Iron and the breakdown of modifiers and mod distribution. So what we're going to do here real quick is we're going to open up a quick notepad and we're going to have a look at the actual affixes that we care for, which in this case is temple life, right, and global defense. Those are the 2 prefixes that we actually care for, and that's it. So because of that, we're going to need to look at how many mods in the pool do we need to have in order to maximize our odds here. So if you have 1 mod in the pool, well, obviously that wouldn't work. If we have 2 mods in the pool, there's a 33% chance that we actually succeed. So if I was to just put that down, 2 mods equals 33.3% chance to win. Now, this is pretty bad because it means that you'd have to do this 3 times. 66% of the time, you'll get only 1 mod. Now, this means that it's impossible if you were to do this and lose both modifiers. What that means essentially is if you have let's say a blue fractured global defense and a blue fractured Guatzalitzes, which is temple life hybrid, and you were to recombinate them, you will always, 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 always end up with at least 1 modifier, which means 66% of the time you are going to actually lose one of those 2 modifiers, and then you'll just have to kind of get it back. The other 33% of the time you'll actually get both. So this gives us a 33% chance to win and a 66% chance to only lose one of her body armors. Now, looking at the 3 mods in the pool, there's and this would be basically like crafting a single mod on one chest but not the other. There's a 20% chance to win, which basically means that this automatically 3 mods equals 20% chance to win, right? It's an automatic win if you get all 3 modifiers, because 2 of them are going to be fractured and the other one's going to be from your bench. There's a 50% chance that it actually choose 2 mods. So there's Temple Life, right? There's Global Defense, and then it would be like Crafted Mod, right? So there's a 50% chance that it chooses 2. So if it chooses 2, it could choose Temple and Global Defense, which would be best case scenario. So that would be a win. So that's a 1 in 3 chance. So 1 in 3 out of the 50%. Then they could choose Temple and Crafted Mod, which essentially means that we lost the modifier, and they could choose Global and Crafted Mod, which means that on average, from the 50%, 1 out of 3 times you'll actually end up getting what you want, and the other 2 times you'll lose one of the fractures. So 50 divided by 3 plus the initial 20% means that our actual success rate in this case is essentially 36.66. So it's a little bit higher. Now, the upside, if you will, of this is that, the downside of this is that even though the chance to win is slightly higher, the actual chance to get 2 modifiers could also be the, whenever it does choose 2 modifiers, right, it can choose the Crafted Mod, which means you're going to lose one of your bases, the same thing that we said initially, but initially it's only it's a 66% chance, which means realistically you'll mostly always just lose a modifier. Now, if we look at the 30% chance to choose 1 mod, this is where it gets worse, because the 1 mod could actually be the Crafted Mod. So 30% of the time, which is 1 in 3, if you will, and then it'll choose 1 mod, and then they're 1 in 3 chance. So basically 10% chance you'll basically lose both the fractured chests for only an additional 3.3% chance to actually win. So this is pretty bad. Now, going down to the 4 modifier chest, right, is where things start to look a little bit better. Because if we have 4 modifiers on the chest, which means 1 crafted on one and then 1 crafted on the other, if the crafts are the same, it cannot choose the same craft twice. This is called duplicating or doubling mods when recombinating, which is going to help us a lot. So what that means is that there's a 35% chance that we actually get, there's a 35% chance that we choose 3 mods, but because it can't choose the crafted mod twice, it automatically wins, right? So 35% chance to win. But also, after that, there's a 55% chance that it actually chooses 2 mods. So if there's say Temple Life, right, and then there's Global Def, and then there's basically going to be bench and bench, right? This is what's actually available to choose. The 35% chance basically is automatically win. Now, out of the 55% chance that it chooses 2 mods, it could choose Temple Life and Global Defense, which is, you know, an actual win. It could choose Temple Life and bench, Temple Life and other bench, Global Defense and bench, or Global Defense and other bench. So out of those modifiers, it can choose 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 different possibilities, and one of them is actually a win as well. So 1 in 5, which is about 20% chance of 55%, is also an additional win chance. So this goes up to 46% chance to win. And then there's also the 10% chance that it chooses 1 mod, which is basically a complete brick, because it could also choose just the bench or just the bench. But looking at the odds here, now 5 mods in the pool is basically going to be bad. I'm just going to tell you right away. Looking at the odds here, it means that our best case scenario is actually to go with 4 mods on the pool. Not only does 4 mods on the pool give us the best chance to get a win from our scenario, it also gives us a pretty good chance to recover one of our actual fracture modifier. Now, if your goal was to not lose money, the best odds would actually do 1 mod in the pool. So just simply two chests with 1 of the fractured on each, because there would be a 2 mods in the pool, so there would be a 33% chance to win, but you would never ever lose both fractures. But it would also only give you it would actually give you the lowest possible chance to actually get what you want versus a 46% chance, which is a decent bit higher for the actual additional, if you will, the additional risks that you need to take. So this is how we did it. We basically got Temple with a random prefix, and then Global Defenses with a random prefix that were both crafted in the same thing, and then we recombinated them, and I got pretty lucky because I hit the 50-50 on the first try. But if it's 46%, let's just call it 50% chance, it would only take you on average 2 times to actually get this, but you do need to also you pick the right base, right? It could pick full dragon scale in our case, which is what the best base was, or grasping mail. If it picks grasping mail, I wouldn't say go again. I would say sell it, right? Completely craft it, sell it, and then make another one, because you'll probably profit from actually selling it, way more so than if you were to try to recombinate them and re-put your fractured modifiers at risk. Okay, so that's essentially how we go about getting the life and the global defenses. Now the rest is actually very, very simple. What we're going to do is we're essentially going to look at essence spamming into the suppress, because we cannot target it, right? Suppression does not have a tag, as you can see here. However, the global physical reduction does have a tag. It has the physical tag. Not only that, if you were to look at body armors, you will see that the only physical tag that's available on non-influenced body armors as a suffix is the physical reduction, and there's also the prefix physical reflect melee, right? So if it does choose an actual suffix, there's a 1 in 5 that you end up with T1. If it chooses a prefix, you essentially need to go again. So the way that we're going to go about this is that we're going to essence spam until we get T1 suppression. Then we're going to look for an open suffix. If it doesn't have one, we're going to annul for it, because our fractured prefixes cannot be annulled, so it's fine. There's no risk there. And annulling a prefix is not a bad thing either, because we're going to need an open one if we actually do end up with the open suffix in order to reforge physical. So we're going to do that until we get, again, T1 suppression, which is about 76 essences on average. And then once we get T1 suppression on the body armor with an open suffix, we are going to craft on suffixes cannot be changed, which is where it's important to have an open prefix, because otherwise we won't be able to do that. And then once we craft suffixes cannot be changed, we are going to simply reforge physical. And as long as it hits a suffix, it's going to be a 1 in 5 for T1. If it hits a prefix, there's a chance that it also adds a random suffix, in which case you're going to need to annul that random suffix in order to try again. So it's going to cost you a decent chunk, because of course these essences are not cheap, and the amount of essences that you'll need is probably somewhere close to 500 to 1,000 to actually get the T1 physical damage reduction. So there's a bit of a cost there. Now the main cost by far is the double prefixes on the right base, however. Now, once you've got all of your suffixes, the reservation, the suppressed, and the physical damage reduction, and by the way, the physical damage reduction could also be chaos resistance, right? And the cool thing about chaos resistance is that there's no chaos prefixes, which means if you have an open suffix and you reforge chaos, you are guaranteed chaos resistance. There's no way that it could give you a random prefix and fill up your suffixes. It's guaranteed. However, in my opinion, chaos resistance is relatively easy to get on this build due to the fact that we have access to these large cluster jewels with up to 5 chaos resistance per node times the 1.35 effect, which gives you about, I believe, 6 or 7 chaos resistance per node, and then 12 passives times 6, because of course, or times 10 because of the 2 jewel sockets, means that you can essentially get roughly 60 or 70 chaos resistance per large cluster jewel. It's pretty ridiculous, and that alone is going to take care of all your needs for chaos resistance, which is why I went with physical damage reduction, as it's not really available elsewhere pretty much in the entirety of the game other than Watcher's Eyes and Shields. So once we have that, the next thing is going to be very, very simple. We're going to lock in our suffixes. Now, if you have a random prefix from the reforge or otherwise, you are going to need to do a reforge keeping suffixes, because we have 2 fractured prefixes. They can't be changed, so they're not going to actually change, but they are still there, and they are counted in the pool of prefixes that you have. So when you do reforge keeping suffixes on a double fractured item, it's still going to respect the actual distribution of modifiers on 4, 5, and 6. The odds of getting 4, 5, and 6 modifiers on an item. So most cases, what's going to happen is you'll do reforge keep suffix, and it's just going to give you an open prefix, because essentially the prefix that it tries to roll, let's say life or something, it already is there, right? And because it's already there, it can't be added again. So it just basically gives you an open prefix. Then you're going to craft on suffixes cannot be changed, and you're going to use a veiled chaos orb. There's no reason to use an Aisling or anything like that, because it can't touch your prefixes or your suffixes, and it can't touch any of your prefixes. So a simple veiled chaos orb is fine. And then you can't block anything, unfortunately, because of course your prefixes and suffixes are full. So you're just going to unveil, and you're going to look for either the hybrid life and mana if that's what you want. But personally, I think that the avoid ailments is the way to go. And that is basically how we crafted this chest from start to finish. After that, of course, you're going to go ahead and do your Eldritch Implicits. But that's nothing new. We also got the defense modifiers of 8% effect, because it affects the global defenses. Now you might be wondering, why didn't you get the life modifiers from the heist enchant? And that is very simple, because for some weird reason the percent maximum life was not being affected by it, right? So even if you had say 10% or something, it wasn't actually doing anything to it for some weird reason. So that's why we went with defense. Also, because 8% global defenses, which is 8% increase to your armored evasion, just seemed like a lot better than like 10 extra life on the body armor. So that's why we went with that. But that's pretty much how we crafted this entire chest piece. Now, I believe this has been mirrored 3 times. Now, people mirroring chest piece and body armors is relatively rare. It's not something that people actually prioritize in terms of in terms of mirroring. So I would not recommend trying to craft something like this, especially for profit. But I do think that it's a really, really neat craft, and one that could not have been possible prior to this league because of recombinators not existing. So I'm super happy with it, but we got really, really lucky. Both on the prefixes and choosing the right base on the first try. Not even that, just even the fracturing of the temple life took 1 try. Like everything, this chest piece was basically started and finished within about an hour of crafting. So I'm super, super stoked about it. And it's added a ton of survivability to my build, especially paired with defensive watchers like this, giving me some additional physical damage reduction. Anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video and found it informative. Good luck if you go out and try to craft your own chest piece, which is either like mine or similar to mine. Now, I highly recommend, honestly, if you want to make this for like way cheaper, just cut out the global defenses and instead just get like another random prefix and then just like crafted percent and life and mana. It's going to cost you like a very, very tiny fraction, and in reality, it's going to be very close to what you're actually seeing here. But yeah, before I go, I do want to say a huge thank you to my supporters. So Jaden and Rocky, Max, Mist, HKMZ, Thomas, Mass, Mercury, Solomonk, Alex, the Great Master, Nake, Tim, the other Alex, Alex McCon, Nailed, Talismar, Ando, Drago99, Faith, and Bizen. As well as, of course, anyone else who's supported me in the past and anyone else who wishes to remain anonymous. That'll be Matthew signing out. Until the next one, peace.